your story doesn't end here. That feeling you're carrying right now, that sense that you've hit a wall, that the door you were staring at just went dark inside, that isn't the end. It's the threshold, sine, and there is a massive difference between the two. You don't fall off a threshold. You step over it. There is a seat with your name on it. Not someone else's name. Yours. It wasn't given away while you were hesitating. It's sitting right there. The door cracked open, just waiting for your yes. Stay with me until the end of this message. Before we're done, you're going to receive the exact protocol for the 3 moves that activate your entrance into that position. Don't walk away before you get that. I know what the last few months have felt like for you. It's not just being tired. It's something more specific, something quieter. It's the kind of feeling that hits you on a random Tuesday at 2:00 p.m., right in the middle of a mindless task, when you suddenly stop and think, is this it? Is this what I'm here for? There's no easy answer, so you just close the tab and keep going. You've sat in front of your laptop with that file open. That project, that idea, that draft you've opened and closed a dozen times. You stared at the screen without typing a single word. Not because you didn't want to, but because of this sinking feeling that doing it would just be more of the same, pretending you're in the right place. So you closed the file. You went and did something productive instead. But the file is still there. It's always there, in a folder you renamed, just so you wouldn't have to see it on your desktop. You've watched someone else get recognized for something you know is inside of you. It's not jealousy. Not exactly. It's a sharper, quieter pain. It's the realization that the same seed planted in you was planted in them, and it bloomed for them because they said yes while you were still questioning yourself. You stayed quiet. You lived with that feeling for longer than you'd like to admit. And then you felt guilty for even feeling it, because you wanted to cheer for them, but you also wanted it to be you. You've had conversations where someone asked what you actually wanted to do. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part, you start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video. Conversations where someone asked what you actually wanted to do, and you started answering with what felt acceptable to say out loud. But while you were talking, there was a different answer underneath it. The real answer, the one you kept locked away. Because saying it out loud would sound too big. It would sound arrogant. It would sound naive coming from someone in your current situation. You carry a talent, a skill, a vision that flows out of you effortlessly when the right moment strikes. But those moments are rare. And when they do show up, something in you hesitates. There's no easy name for that hesitation, but you know it when it arrives. It's that split second before the yes turns into a maybe, and the maybe eventually turns into maybe someday. What you're carrying isn't weakness. You made it this far, holding all of this together. That is no small feat. The like button is your public amen. Heaven records what you confess openly. I'm going to show you 3 things in this message. First, why you haven't stepped into the position prepared for you yet. It's not a lack of faith. It's not a punishment. It's not some unexplained delay. It's a specific pattern with a spiritual name. Once you know the name, the pattern loses its power over your choices. Second, the protocol for the 3 moves that activate your entrance. These are actionable steps. Today, not 6 months from now, not after a weekend retreat, not when you feel ready, Because waiting to feel ready is one of the most sophisticated ways to stay stuck. We start today. Third, a declaration you're going to take with you. Not to whisper in the back of your mind. To say out loud, because what you declare with your mouth creates reality in a way that your thoughts alone cannot. Heaven responds to what you confess openly, not just what stays hidden in your head. From hesitation to entrance. From a closed file to an active role. From waiting to be ready to being available. This message found its way to you today for a reason. Stay until the end. I set this seat for you before you even knew you needed it. Every hesitation you had was factored into my plan. There is no delay here. There is only preparation. There are signs that your new position is active and waiting. They aren't abstract or generic. They are specific situations you're living through right now. Let me name them. Close your eyes for a second if you can. Take a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you doesn't work if your attention is divided. Sign 1. You feel out of place in your current environment, but you can't quite explain why. It's not the people. It's not that you're ungrateful. It's like you're wearing an outfit that, even though it's the right color and the right size, just isn't yours. You function. You deliver. You get the job done. But a part of you knows this isn't where your best belongs. You called it dissatisfaction. I call it orientation. Sign 2. You have recurring dreams or thoughts about a very specific context. This isn't just escapist fantasy. It's the same theme showing up in different ways, at different times, without you asking for it. A specific role, a type of work, a way to lead, to create, to serve. When that thought hits, you don't feel a rush of hype. You feel recognition, like you knew that place before you ever got there. You called it a daydream. I call it a map. Sign 3. You've received the same affirmation multiple times from people who don't even know each other. Someone tells you that you have a gift for this. Another says you really should be doing that. The same point being made by independent voices in different settings, without any coordination. You heard them. And then you archived those comments because hearing the confirmation without having the position is a special kind of painful. You called it a compliment. I call it multiple confirmation. Sign 4. You have talents that show up without proportional effort. You do certain things with an ease that surprises you, but you've never taken them seriously enough to build on them. While you struggle to do things that aren't your calling, the thing that is your calling comes out almost without thinking, almost for free. You called it luck or a coincidence. I call it signaling. Sign 5. You've had a recent disappointment with something you thought was the door. When that door slammed shut, the pain was real. Not surface level. Real. But there's a strange layer underneath the hurt. A quietness that isn't resignation. It's a silent certainty that the door closing wasn't a collapse. It was a redirection. You called it failure. I call it a course correction. This next sign is the hardest one to hear. It's the one the enemy has spent the most time trying to make you ignore, because it's the most dangerous to his plans. Sign 6, you know. You already know what the position is. It's not a mystery. It's not something you need to discover with more prayer or more searching. You already feel it. You already think it. You already have the mental blueprint of what saying yes would look like. What's missing isn't clarity on the direction. What's missing is internal permission to take seriously what I have already placed inside of you. You called it arrogance or wishful thinking. I call it a calling, waiting for authorization. Type free in the comments if this word reached you. Close your eyes again. Breathe. This doesn't work if your mind is split between where you are and what you just heard. Let me tell you about a man who spent 40 years in the wilderness thinking his best days were behind him. Moses was 80 years old when he went back to Egypt. Not 40, 80. 40 years in the palace, 40 years in the back of the beyond. And it was in that wilderness, far from any audience, far from any structure, far from any external validation, that the fire that wouldn't burn out appeared before him. When I called Moses by name at the burning bush, he didn't say, "I'm ready." He said, "Who am I?" He said, "I can't talk." He said, "Send someone else." Every one of those answers was honest. It wasn't a lack of faith for show. It was the honesty of someone who feels the weight of the request and isn't sure they can carry it. I didn't ignore Moses' objections. I answered every single one. For every "I can't," I said, "I am with you." For every "they won't listen," I said, "I will give you the words." For every "I'm not enough," I said, "I am enough for you." The calling didn't require Moses to become someone else. The calling required Moses to accept that I would complete what was missing. What Moses didn't know at the burning bush was that those 40 years tending sheep weren't a punishment for his past mistakes. They were training. The humility he learned in the desert, caring for nameless animals far from power, was exactly what would make it possible to lead a people in a way a prince never could. The wilderness wasn't a detour. It was the preparation. Now think about a radio frequency. It exists. It's broadcasting. It's sending out a signal all the time, regardless of anything else. The frequency doesn't need the radio to exist. It's already there, constant. The only thing that changes is whether the receiver is tuned in. There is a position broadcasting your name in the spiritual realm longer than you've even been aware of it. It didn't stop transmitting while you were doubting. It didn't give the frequency to someone else. It's still emitting. What changes when you say yes isn't the existence of the position. It's that your internal receiver finally catches the signal. You don't create the calling when you say yes. You tune in to what is already being broadcast. The bridge between Moses and the frequency is this: the calling doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be available. Available doesn't mean enthusiastic. Available doesn't mean you have no doubts. Available means, here I am. Use what I have. And that simple phrase, spoken with honesty, is what opens the door. Tell me in the comments if you identify more with Moses or with the radio that needs tuning. One word is enough. Let me stop for one full minute. You've made it this far. That's already a move. Not everyone stays when the message gets this specific. Most people bail when the word starts touching where it actually hurts. You stayed. That carries a weight you aren't measuring correctly. 3 objective facts about where you are right now. 1. You aren't late. Moses was 80 when he stepped into his role. Joseph was 30 when he went from the dungeon to the palace after 13 years of an invisible process. Entrance doesn't have a universal deadline. It has a divine moment. And the divine moment doesn't answer to the calendar of your anxiety. 2. The position waiting for you is real. It's not a motivational metaphor. It's a concrete spiritual structure. Heaven reserves roles. It doesn't fill them with substitutes when the designated person hesitates. Your hesitation doesn't cancel the reservation. 3. What you've been calling hesitation has a root. It's not a weak character. It's not a lack of faith. It's a pattern with a name. When you understand the name of the pattern, it loses its ability to disguise itself as being careful. And here is who you are in the middle of all this. I saw you in the drawer. I saw the project you tucked away when you thought it was too big for you. The idea you called impossible when you were 27 and naive when you were 32. I never called it impossible. I never called it naive. I called it a seed. I put it there to ripen until the right moment. The right moment is closer than you think. I didn't need you to be perfect to reserve the seat. I needed you to be you. What you're about to hear isn't a human title. It's what I call you when I talk to heaven about you. You are the key carrier. This isn't a motivational quote. It's a job description. I gave you the specific access for a door that others tried to open and couldn't. Not because they failed, because it wasn't their key. I saw when you tried to hand that key to someone else because you didn't want the responsibility that comes with it. I brought it back to you. It came back to you because it only works in your hands. There are people on the other side of that door waiting for someone with exactly what you carry. They don't know the name of who is coming. But I do. This is your permission to stop treating the things you do easily as accidents. What flows out of you with little effort is what cost others a lifetime of work they could never finish. That ease isn't luck. It isn't an unfair privilege. It's the key fitting into the right lock. And the right lock isn't a coincidence. It's by design. You are the prepared in the waiting, not despite the wait. Because of it. The wait wasn't the gap between two important things. The wait was the important thing. I saw every season you called stagnation. I was there. What looked like it was standing still was a process happening where you couldn't see. You looked outside and saw nothing. I looked inside and saw formation. Roots don't show up on the surface. You can't see them growing from above. But without deep roots, no tree stays standing when the wind comes. And the wind comes when the tree grows big enough to be seen. I didn't leave you stuck. I was building your foundation. And foundations aren't visible until the weight comes. The weight is coming. The foundation is ready. This is your permission to reclassify your history. The time you called lost, I didn't call lost. The time you called a waste, I called an investment. I was building a foundation for the weight that comes with the position. You won't collapse at the first test. You are the essential for this hour. You didn't get here by accident, not by a string of lucky breaks, by specific designation, before time began. I didn't put you here sooner because you weren't who you are now. Everything you lived through, the wins, the mistakes, the losses, the things you learned too late, the burdens you learned to carry without breaking, it all formed the person this position requires. You aren't qualified despite what you went through. You are qualified because of what you went through. I knew what I was doing when I let that happen. It wasn't an oversight. It was curation. I curated your story to prepare for what's next. This is your permission to stop hiding what you've been through as if it disqualifies you. What you carry isn't purposeless baggage. It's the resume for what the position demands. No one who has never lost has what you have. No one who has never waited understands what you will offer to those who are waiting behind you. Write the name of the identity that resonated most in the comments. One word. Key, lead, prepared. Or essential, Mino. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now. The next word will arrive when you are already positioned to receive it. Now, we've reached the protocol I promised at the beginning. The Active Yes Protocol. This isn't about motivation. Motivation is fuel that runs out. This protocol is about alignment. These 3 moves open the channel between where you are and where you are called to be. The difference is that alignment doesn't depend on how you feel when you do it. Move 1. Name it out loud. Not in your head. Out loud. Say the position, the role, the area, the calling. Use concrete words, not abstractions. Don't say, I want to make an impact. Say what it is. If you can't say it out loud, it's because you haven't given yourself internal permission to take it seriously. Your audible voice is a declaration. Declaration is confession. Heaven responds to what is confessed with the mouth, not just what is processed in silence. The movement of the mouth precedes the movement of the circumstances. Move 2. Identify the first 11-minute action. Not the whole plan. Not the 5-year strategy. The first action. 11 minutes of real work in the direction of the position. Write the first sentence of the project. Open the file that's been closed. Make the call you've been putting off. Send the draft you've been sitting on. The size doesn't matter. The direction does. Movement creates an opening. An opening attracts what was waiting. 11 minutes isn't too little. It's enough for heaven to see you are in motion. Move. 3. Release the deadline you created. You have an internal date, a deadline you invented for when you should be in this position. That date isn't from heaven. It's from anxiety. And anxiety is a terrible project manager. Letting go of the deadline isn't giving up on the position. It's letting go of a weight that stops your movement. It's stopping the comparison between where you are and where you should be, according to a timeline you built without spiritual foundation. The position doesn't have an expiration date. It has a right moment, and the right moment isn't negotiated with urgency. It's received through availability. The sign that the protocol worked isn't hype. It's not an explosion of certainty. It's quiet. A specific feeling that something has settled inside. Like when a weight is removed so slowly that you only realize you were carrying it once it's gone. When that quiet comes, you'll know it. Type received in the comments if you are accepting this protocol. In the next 72 hours, 3 things will be thrown at you. Not as a possibility, as a certainty. You need to know their names before they arrive, because a named attack loses half its power. Tactic 1. The evidence of delay. Something will show up that seems to prove you got here too late. Someone you know will move forward in exactly what your calling is. They'll get published. They'll get the recognition. It will look like your seat was filled while you were waiting. The enemy uses real evidence to build a false conclusion. Someone else's progress doesn't cancel your seat. There is no competition in the spiritual realm. Every calling is singular. What's for you only fits you. There can be more than one doctor, more than one creator, more than one leader. What is specific to you cannot be replicated. When that evidence shows up, call it by its name, the evidence of delay, and know it's just a tactic. Tactic 2. Perfectionism as protection. A voice will tell you that you need more training, more study, more experience, more time, more validation. That voice will use responsible language, the language of humility and maturity, just to keep you exactly where you are. Perfectionism isn't a demand for excellence. It's fear using the vocabulary of virtue. The difference between discernment and perfectionism is simple. Discernment has a finish line. Perfectionism doesn't. Every time you meet a requirement, another one appears. The list never ends because the goal isn't excellence. The goal is to make sure you never start. When that voice hits, call it by its name, perfectionism, and know it's just paralysis in disguise. Tactic 3. The speed trap. The voice will point to how long it took for someone else to get where you want to be. It will suggest you missed the growth window. It will use real stories of people who started young and built in 10 years what you theoretically have to do in less time because you lost years. The speed trap ignores the fact that heaven doesn't work with the same metrics of time that anxiety does. Moses started at 80. The calling doesn't have a years of service entry fee. It has an availability entry fee. When that comparison shows up, call it by its name and know it's just a distraction. And the internal enemy will show up too. It will sound like your own voice, using your own tone, telling you that you're being naive to believe this is real for you specifically. That it works for others, but not for someone with your track record. That voice isn't humility. It's the enemy using your frequency to broadcast his signal. You'll recognize it by the fruit. Real humility produces clarity and movement. This voice produces paralysis using the language of wisdom. Type protected in the comments. The decree is sealed. Close your eyes for 30 seconds if you can. If you can't, just be still on the inside. Put a hand on your chest. Not for an empty ritual, but to anchor what you're receiving into your body. Now let go of the weight you carried into this message. Let go of the doubt about whether this message was really for you. Let go of the internal deadline you made up. Let go of the comparison with people moving at a different speed. Let go of the closed file. Let go of the idea you labeled as naive. Let it all go. Don't go back for it. Then the Father speaks. I saw the afternoon you closed that file without typing a word. I was there when you stared at the screen, and the idea was right there, waiting on the inside, and something told you it wasn't the time. I heard the thought you didn't say out loud, the one that came right after saying maybe you weren't the right person for this. I heard that one too, and I didn't agree with it. Not for a second. I saw the moment you watched someone else be recognized for what is inside of you, and you stayed quiet with that specific, nameless pain that you can't share with anyone. And then you blamed yourself for even feeling it. I saw that too, and I don't condemn you for it. I understand. Seeing what is in you bloom somewhere else before it blooms where it should. That hurts in a way only those with a calling understand. I was there when you had that conversation where someone asked what you really wanted and you gave the acceptable answer instead of the real one. And the real answer stayed stuck in your throat, waiting for an opening that never came. I heard the answer you didn't give. It was the right answer. It was the name of the calling, whispered too low for the world to hear, but loud enough for me to record. I was in every one of those moments. Not to fix them while they were happening, but to use them as raw material. The drawer wasn't a waste. It was the incubation chamber. What was in there was growing in the dark, in the silence, in a depth that can't be measured from the surface. You don't end here. This isn't a consolation prize to make you feel better. It's a decree that comes before reality. The seat waiting for your yes exists because I prepared it for you before you even knew you'd need it. Before the closed file. Before the hesitation, before the pain of seeing someone else move forward. It was reserved then. It's reserved now. The door is cracked open, not as a symbol, but as a spiritual reality. Nothing you lived through canceled the reservation. Not the hesitation, not the closed files, not the answers you didn't give. None of it is a reason for me to revoke what I prepared for you. The only obstacle between you and the entrance isn't your history. It isn't your lack of prep. It isn't the time you think you lost. It's the yes. Not a yes full of hype. Not a yes without doubt. Not a yes after you've answered every objection your mind can think of. Because that list never ends. It's the available. Yes. The honest, simple yes that says, here I am. Use what I have. Because what you have, combined with who I am, is more than enough for everything the position requires. I don't need you to be someone else before you step in. I don't need you to be braver, more experienced, more certain, or scar-free. I need you to be you, available. That's it. And that is what you have right now. Exactly now. Say it out loud. I don't end here. I am available for the seat prepared for me. Say it again if you need to. Your audible voice declares what your heart is receiving. And what you declare with your mouth, heaven registers as an active confession. Amen. Type done in the comments. Not as an engagement tactic, but because what you confess openly, heaven registers as a declaration. Done doesn't mean everything is solved. It means the entrance has been accepted. Now think of one specific person, not a group. One person. Someone you know who is standing in front of a seat prepared for them, waiting for something they can't quite name yet. Send them this video today. Right now, before you close it. They are waiting for a message they don't know they need, just like you were. And if they want to go deeper, the link is in the first comment. Waiting just like it waited for you. The next video continues this conversation where this one left off. It is done. You are not the same person you were when this message started. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong. if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.